Rangers fans, welcome to Liberty Blue, the essential New York Rangers podcast. I'm Andrew Chelney alongside Nick Zararis. And Nick, I was unaware the Rangers signed Austin Matthews, who's now wearing number 21 for this team. This is insane.
They don't ask when you win the Stanley Cup who contributed what. You get your name on there, Barclay Goodrow is making a real argument. Well, he's an A, so he's going to be towards the top of the list, but yeah. You get the point I'm trying to make. When you're this time of year, you got to find ways. I think a lot of people felt that game. Hockey Stat Miner pointed this out. I tweeted the exact same thing. That felt a lot like Game 3 in 2022 against Tampa Bay. Trouba taking 3 awful penalties against a team in the state of Florida that came storming back in the third period to erase a multi-goal deficit. The difference is this iteration of the Rangers is deeper. They have more guys they can play, and they have been able to survive whatever problems they've had. I wouldn't say they've played amazing in this series, but they have played well enough within the margin of error in all of these games that there's not really a whole lot to complain about. Florida's great. We knew that coming into this. You know, the Rangers were going to have a hard time limiting Barkov, limiting Reinhart, limiting Matthew Tkachuk, limiting Carter Verhaeghe, who I think had 20-something shots in yesterday's game. Not all of them on goal, but Florida's a really good team. And the Rangers have kept it close enough that their depth has been able to keep them in. And in the case of the last two, win. You know, Game 2 was about as stressful a game I've ever been to in my life. Yesterday's game was not for the faint of heart. That really was that was vintage 2014 Rangers. That was vintage. All right, Lundqvist is going to do whatever he can, and if we lose, oh well. But Florida's great. The Rangers have kept it close enough that their depth has been able to keep them in this series. I think if you are a Ranger fan, the mindset I would have, and this is my mindset, so please feel free to steal it. They are up 2-1 in a playoff series against a team that is arguably more talented than them, with the Rangers' best players being relatively ineffective.
Yeah.
Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, not a whole lot going on for those guys. Trocheck's still making some stuff happen. He's facilitated a bit, and we can touch on something about Trocheck and the Rempe thing, that those two things are connected on there. But we're talking Goodrow goals, we're talking Lafreniere goals, we're talking Wenberg goals. When you're gaming it out and trying to figure out the Rangers' path to winning 16 games, you're maybe putting Goodrow down for 2 goals over the course of the entire playoff run. If that. You're putting Wenberg down for maybe 1. Somebody said the other day Wenberg has 12 shots on goal in the entirety of the playoffs. He's not a guy who's going to put the puck on the net a whole lot, but he got a redirect yesterday. The Rangers are right there. Florida's good. Florida is going to have a game at some point in this series where it's all going to come back the other way. You know, you're not going to stay undefeated in overtime. It just eventually at some point, it doesn't feel like it's sustainable to win this many games the way they are, but it is not about sustainability because we are talking about a week at a time here. If this were like November and the Rangers conceded 105 scoring chances in a game, okay, I think that would be a little more warranted of a conversation about the flow of play. Are they good enough? They got out to a big lead. They got out to a 2-goal lead. They stopped being as aggressive offensively. And Florida pushed as hard as they possibly could to tie the game, and they did. This is what playoff hockey this time of year is like. There is pushback, there is give and take, and the Rangers should feel really good about the fact they went down to Florida. And I won't say they outright slow won, but they didn't deserve to win yesterday based on how that third period went. But because this team is different, because they have more depth, because they have resolve and some mental toughness, they were able to screw it back on. We have watched a lot of Ranger teams get undone in very similar situations.
It is a testament to the mentality of this team that they saw the lead evaporate. They were down early in the game. Lafreniere says, I don't care about that. I'm just going to go in and tie the game because I'm him. Score a top cheddar goal on Bobrovsky, which was one of, not like you would think, you know, players would have maybe one highlight reel goal a game in the conference final. My man said, no, you don't understand. You don't understand what's going on. He scored 2. Like my man's was an electric factory all game in Game 3. The Rangers went down early. They were up 2 goals. They squandered that lead. The Florida Panthers were all over the Rangers in the third period, and they found a way, regardless of the shot attempt disparity, regardless of how many shot attempts Carter Verhaeghe had. Like the graphic was like they had a list of the Florida.
It's very
Panthers.
funny. ESPN understands analytics when it suits them, and then they go back to intermission, and there's no mention of anything. Speaking of that, Tom Galati, who works for NHL.com, tweeted this, and I want to. 108 shot attempts, 41 blocked, 29 missed the net. So more than half of the 108 were not on goal. And then on top of that, high danger. Rangers won high danger yesterday, 10-8.
10-8. Yeah. I mean, I tweeted this, earlier today. It's the Rangers beat the Hurricanes, and their reward was another matchup with the Hurricanes in terms of the way that the Florida Panthers play. All the shot attempts are great. 109, 75,000. It doesn't matter. What matters is, okay, well, how many of these actually have a chance of going in the net? The Rangers are doing a good job of clogging the high danger opportunities. They're doing a good job of blocking the important shots when needed. Yeah, some of the shots, especially in Game 3, bad bounces off of a leg or off of whatever goes in the net. You can't really do anything about that. But the fact that the shot disparity and all that was so one-sided, and yet the high danger, the chances that are actually dangerous and going in the net, still favor the Rangers. This is just Carolina again. We saw this. We saw the narratives with the Carolina series that they're out shooting, they're out shot attempting, they're doing all these things. Okay, but the Rangers controlled the high danger chances for the most part in that series, and they won. And the same exact thing is happening so far in the Florida series. Okay, the Panthers got 100,000 attempts at the net. Okay, but that doesn't mean that they were any good. Like, if you're shooting from the blue line and your shot attempt is getting blocked by somebody 30 feet away from the crease, that's not a good shot. It doesn't, it counts on the shot attempt list. That looks good for ESPN's sake because Carter Verhaeghe had 1 million of them. But that doesn't mean that they were actually going to go in the net, had, if not for a leg or a stick or whatever. So the fact that the Rangers were, let's put it this way, were essentially dominated in that third period, gave up a 2-goal lead, and said, oh, it doesn't matter, we're going to win this game anyway. And they did. They're built different, bro.
They really are. And that's the thing. That's why, in spite of the fact they have basically one healthy, functioning defenseman right now who looks like they know what they're doing. I mean, the defense has been just, it sounds unfair to say when Lindgren and Fox are both very clearly injured and look pretty ineffective. Yeah. Trouba's just doing his whatever the fuck he calls that. I mean, consistently, I have said,
I can't believe he didn't get ejected. I can't believe that.
Hey man, the Ranger fans are like, they got the Zapruder film. We're going frame by frame. The point of his elbow hit here and not here, so that's only 2 instead of 5. But listen, I'll take it. He didn't get tossed. It helped them win the game.
Sure,
I'll take it. But he's got to be in better position. He doesn't have to do that if he's in a better position, which has always been my argument, is that whenever he throws that big hit, he is taking himself out of position because he's chasing the big hit. If he had better positioning, or he wasn't always on his heels leaning, he would be able to make something happen. Same thing happened to Miller on the first Florida goal, where Miller was leaning all the way forward. So if you're leaning all the way forward and somebody bumps into you, you're going to fall backwards because your weight's not evenly distributed throughout your feet. Miller couldn't push on, I think it was Reinhart on the first goal. He couldn't push him because he was leaning all the way forward. He had nothing to push up with, and he got bodied all the way through. And the fact the Rangers are doing this, that they are up in this series with one defenseman playing moderately well in Schneider, who doesn't even play a whole lot. Yeah. And the power play has gone cold, but regression was going to happen, and Fox being hurt has killed the power play. We can be honest. I don't think it's controversial to say. I think there's a serious conversation about having Gustafsson run the point on the first power play because they have no movement on the man advantage right now. Because Fox can't move left to right at the point right now, defenses are going to be a little bit more cued in. They don't have to cover as much ground, and it's been really difficult for them on the man advantage. I mean, the Rangers were as good a power play as I have ever seen this year. But if they don't have Fox moving around, it gets static. everybody just stands around. And if they're just passing the puck around the perimeter, Florida can set up. Okay, shoot at us. We'll block it and we'll go the other way. So with all of that working against them, the Rangers are up in this series. And now, what do you think is more likely to happen? The Rangers guys, Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, figure it out? Or Florida comes crazy storming back? Those are your two possibilities realistically. I don't see a world where the Rangers can keep doing what they're doing currently and win 2 more games, but weirder shit has happened. Like I said before, we're only talking about a week. We're not talking about a whole season of this. If they get by, getting outchanced grossly like this, it's doable over the course of a short week. And I think that's the thing a lot of people miss is we have gotten the simple analytics, the shot attempts, the scoring chances. We have gotten those into the conversation enough that most people have a general understanding of what they mean. The problem is they don't know how to apply it. They see, the Rangers got outchanced that bad. Well, they were up 2 goals. They stopped pushing offensively because they were content to turtle. So, Florida had 8 straight minutes of unimpeded offense. They don't understand these things, and I'm going to throw it back to you, but once it comes back around to me, I got props because I'm going to use something here to explain to people the point I'm trying to make about all of this. Because, yes, Florida having the puck more is more difficult for the Rangers to win. That does not mean it is impossible. And I think that's the thing. I think too many people are thinking, these are predictive. This is going to tell me what's going to happen. No, that is describing what has already happened. Just because you had a bunch of shots doesn't mean they're going to go in. Where they come from, is the goalie moving? Is there traffic? There are so many more things than just the raw shot attempts. And like we just said, 100-something shot attempts is great, but if only 30-something, 40-something of them are on goal, you have a lot of empty offense where you gain the zone and you're not doing a whole lot.
Going back to Trouba for a second, I tweeted this out last night that as a fan of the Rangers, I am happy he didn't get thrown out. As a fan of the sport of hockey, I could not believe he only got 2 minutes for that. I could not.
Gary made the call.
Could not believe it, especially because not just ESPN not just ESPN was emphatic that there should have been an ejection. I saw the Canadian feed as well talking about that's an ejection. This guy should be out of the game, and the refs are like, nah, bro, it's totally a 2-minute call. Like I said, as a fan of the team, the fact that he wasn't ejected was nothing short of a miracle. But as a fan of the sport, I am disgusted.
If Trouba wasn't on my team, I would find him hilarious because objectively, he is the goofiest person in the entire league.
Really is.
He consistently Wile E. Coyote yeets himself at people, gets caught horribly out of position, and then occasionally cleans somebody's clock. And the fascination with the violent hit for no real reason other than you can do it is it's mind-boggling, but at the same time, as you just said, if the league is okay with it, very clearly, it doesn't seem to be that anybody in any position of authority is going to get this series under control. I mean, we haven't even talked about Lomberg running VZ for no reason at all.
Yeah, well, and also later on in Game 3, Sam Bennett took a run at Lindgren's skull.
Yeah.
And not only was there no penalty on that play, there was a replay.
Yeah.
They didn't even care. It's like, wait, hold on a second. We can talk about the Trouba hit all we want because that was also really bad.
Yeah, you can't be throwing a forearm shiver. This isn't wrestling.
Objectively, that hit was atrocious. Don't do that. But also, how do you highlight that hit, but not the Bennett steamrolling into Lindgren's skull along the boards? That part, they didn't even show a replay. Come on, brother. You got
hurt and knocked out of this series and probably won't come back in the playoffs based on what we've heard on a play that was entirely the puck is not.
The puck wasn't
even
in frame.
That is a wholly unnecessary, dangerous hit that you need to be disciplined for. But Department of Player Safety is the illusion of safety, as we often talk about here in the United States, which like TSA at the airport. That is the illusion of security. They are not preventing a whole lot. Anytime Dateline or 60 Minutes does can you get a gun through TSA? It's not hard. That's the exact same thing here with Department of Player Safety. There is no real enforcement. It is only if something is extremely bad, and it's twofold because number one, the people in charge like it like this. They want the players to police the game themselves. That way they don't have to do anything and they can't be held accountable by the other people because somebody gets in trouble for that. Oh, what do you mean we can't do that? We've always done that. And it's nonsense. All right. So, Andrew, these 2 bottles of water. This is the state of a hockey game where it's 50-50, okay?
Oh boy.
They both have the same exact amount of water. They are not closed. I'm going to open one. And I'm going to take a sip from one. And then I'm going to explain my point.
This is fascinating.
All right.
I don't know what's happening for the record.
I'm going to explain why everybody doing, oh, they're getting carried by Shesterkin is stupid. So now there is more water in this one than this one. We are all in agreement. Correct.
Yes.
Now, if I squeeze it and the water goes back up and higher in the bottle, they are almost the same water level, even though they are not the same amount of water anymore. That is what a great player does in a situation where it is a tight game. Yesterday, Shesterkin put more influence over the game than any other player. He is the reason the Rangers had enough time to find a way to get to overtime to win. When you have great players, you can get away with not being as good. The point I'm trying to make with the props here, great players filling gaps. That's what Shesterkin did yesterday. Florida undoubtedly had the puck significantly more, had more opportunities. They weren't particularly good, so Shesterkin was able to do his job and have an outsized influence on the game. The goaltender is part of your team too. It is a lot more difficult to win when your best player is a goalie, but it is not impossible. And I am tired of the casual opinion being, oh, the Rangers are getting carried. Shesterkin is their whole team. He is on the team. You don't get disciplined for your best. I don't know what the comparison would be. Like if you were your best player in baseball was a reliever who pitched like 3 innings a game. Oh, he's not a starter. He's not that good. I don't know, man. If he's consistently the best player on the ice, regardless of his position, I think it's fair to say you can win with that. And is it harder? Yes, you cannot win a hockey game 0-0. That is the point, ultimately, as to why you would always take the Connor McDavid over the best goalie in the world. You need goals to win, eventually. You cannot play 0-0 and still win. Shesterkin was outstanding yesterday. He has been great these playoffs. And one more thing on this before I throw it back to you. The way you know this Rangers team is different is they conceded 4 goals in a game, and you still felt like they had a chance in overtime, no matter how bad that last 5 minutes was, where it was peak white knuckle, hold on to your butts. They hung on long enough to get to overtime. They reset, and then they found a way. And 3 guys who I have seen getting skewered online for the better part of the playoffs in Kakko, Wenberg, and Roslovic, excuse me. Those 3 guys have been getting harassed, just absolutely skewered online for not contributing anything offensively, entirely missing the whole, they get zone time, they pressure the other team's defense. Yes, I would like them to contribute goals too, but that's not the primary reason they are on this team. Roslovic was brought to this team to be the puck carrier through the neutral zone for Zibanejad and Kreider and be a second shooter for Zibanejad to pass to. Kakko is here to be their best defensive forward. And speaking of Kakko coming back in because VZ got hurt.
Yep.
Part of the benefit of Rempe playing, and I was talking about this with my friends at the game on Friday, is that you get other players double shifts. You get more Trocheck. You get more Zibanejad. You get more Kreider. You get more Panarin. When you can get those guys out there more, that is going to help your team ultimately. Sure, you would rather the minutes be evenly distributed. In an ideal world, you would have 4 lines. You all play the exact same amount of time because they would have the same amount of impact. But Trocheck being out there with Goodrow, they really had a good game on Sunday. They set up the 1 goal together and they almost had the second one. And then the Shorty. Well, Shorty, I know not playing together, same thing. But when you can double shift a guy like Trocheck and get him out there, the more you can play your best players, the better. I mean, this sounds obvious, but that's one of the benefits. And Andrew, when you cannot begin to understand the facial expression I made in the first overtime on Friday when I looked, is that Rempe? Like, I genuinely was like,
Jiminy Crickets, baby.
I leaned forward in my seat and I like rubbed my eyes like I was Laura Dern in Jurassic Park when she saw the dinosaur the first time. I was like, Rempe overtime? Good for him. I'm glad he got to play. Almost set a career high in minutes on Friday. But again, the 12th forward is not going to be the difference between winning and losing in this series. At some point, one of the big boys has got to get going. That's my biggest takeaway, but I do think they will. And the fact that their depth has got them to this point gives you time, because what happened in 2022, what happened last year, when you got to this point, the guys at the top didn't get going. Everybody pointed and said, you can't win with this core. I was one of those people. And eventually, you're going to need them to do something. I don't need them to all go crazy. I don't need them to all play like Barclay Goodrow, but one of them could play like Barclay Goodrow. It would be nice. Yeah. I need that vintage Panarin game. I need a good Zibanejad game. I need another Kreider game. I know Kreider's bought himself quite a bit of leeway from Game 6 last round, but I need something here, guys. Even if we go back to being just power play merchants, give me some offense. Let's take the load off of our depth, and let's give Shesterkin a little bit less work. I'm not saying he has to play they have to play like the Oilers, so Stuart Skinner only faces 20 shots a game. They got to be a little better than this defensively if they want to keep playing.
We talked about this throughout the course of the playoffs and even last year, things like that, where the Rangers can't Stu Bickle this forward group, where Stu Bickle is in the lineup, in spirit. He is occupying a spot on the bench and occasionally gets out there for the vibes, maybe, and that's it. But the spin zone to that, and you said it a second ago, where, okay, well, Matt Rempe is the Stu Bickle of this group, except he's fun. The team loves him. The fans love him. And also, yeah, he played, 4 minutes on Sunday?
Something like that, yeah.
He did not touch the ice. He took a bad penalty as well. He didn't really do much of anything on Sunday, but the counterpoint to that is, like you said, if it gets the best players more ice time and they can handle it, then it's excusable. The biggest difference between this team and the 2012 team that had Stu Bickle is, okay, if you play Stu Bickle for 5 minutes in a conference final game, you need to give his ice time to somebody else. And at that point, the legs just weren't there, and the Rangers crumbled because their depth wasn't good enough. This year, it seems like the Rangers' top players are totally fine with being double shifted. They want the ice time, and Laviolette is giving it to them. So it's less of a problem right now at this stage. And I bring this up because it was a talking point for us recently, so I want to amend this now. It seems like the top players are more than fine with playing on the fourth line, getting double shifted and all these things, when in previous years that just wasn't the case, whether it be physically, mentally, whatever, what have you. They're up to the challenge, or up to it. And again, it just goes back to our main focal point of this team is literally just built different. Like Barclay Goodrow turning into Austin Matthews / Brett Hull / Wayne Gretzky / insert great goal scorer here in the conference final was not on my bingo card. I apologize. I was not familiar with your game, 21. Like, this was insane. I can't believe what I'm watching here. Barclay Goodrow with that snipe, shorthanded. Like, what is happening? I can't believe what we're seeing. This is the kind of stuff that cup winners are made of, where the Barclay Goodrows of the team all of a sudden go on this massive heater and score 1 million goals. Like, the fact that the Rangers are here, they are 2 games away from the Stanley Cup final, with Zibanejad being MIA, Panarin being MIA offensively in this series, Kreider being MIA in this series. A lot of these guys, Adam Fox is on one leg trying to put his skates on and trying to be out there. Lindgren has 9 different scars on his face. He's wobbling out there. Trouba. K'Andre Miller had a brutal game 3, couple of giveaways while they were shorthanded, caused the Panthers to score a couple of goals. There's so many things going against this team, and yet they still won. Like, if that doesn't scream built different, I cannot help you.
I had more than one person text me yesterday, how do they keep doing this? And if I knew, I'd be winning a lot more money, in all honesty. But I'd be putting a lot of money on this team if I knew how. It is a real different feeling about this group. They continue to find a way to make things happen. And we talked about this a lot in December when Fox was out for a few weeks with the knee injury, the first knee injury. And we were talking about it in the context of good teams make their own luck. And luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And they could not give Barclay Goodrow away last summer. There is more than one report that the Rangers were trying to give him away, but couldn't because they didn't want to give a sweetener to take on his money. He has bided his time. He has been a lot more useful this year because he has played a role better situated to his skill set. He has not been moonlighting on the first line or the second line most of this season. Did that a couple times earlier in the year when guys were hurt, but that's different. He has been put in a position to do better. Alexis Lafreniere has been put in a position to do better. I would argue Trocheck has been put in a position to do better. I listened to 31 Thoughts this morning. 32 Thoughts now. I'm still old, but 31. I was listening to 32 Thoughts this morning, and they were talking about Lafreniere, and the defense of Gallant's handling of Lafreniere was pretty simply reduced to, well, I had talked to Gerard Gallant a couple years ago at a coaching clinic, and I go, what's your biggest pet peeve? And he says, guys who get pushed around. And I don't understand how you can be a professional head coach whose job is to put your guys in a position to succeed. And instead of like sitting him down and being like, hey man, I would like you to work on this, to just passive aggressively play guys who aren't as good as him over him is just, it feels like negligence of the highest order, like the type of petty shit you would hear about in the NBA or college football from a coach with an axe to grind. And I understand the Rangers were in a unique position where they weren't like a lot of the teams that pick first overall, where they can instantly throw them on the first line. But the fact we spent the last 2 seasons with Lafreniere unable to crack the top 6 for guys like Dryden Hunt, for guys like Barclay Goodrow, hell, as a rookie for guys like Colin Blackwell, because we couldn't afford the risk of him being poor defensively for the help it might create some offense. It's absolutely mind-boggling, and I'm genuinely happy he's having this moment because he has been skewered a lot by a lot of people.
Yep.
Hell, he is one of the few players that got objectively criticized for his play in the last few years from the people in the New York media who typically are pretty respectful of not piling on guys who are struggling. I very much remember that column our friend Larry wrote right before the season started about him having the worst preseason in the history of preseasons. Nobody said a word about Jonathan Quick having an .805 save percentage, but the first overall pick, he had a bad preseason. The Rangers might need to get rid of him. Just absolutely asinine stuff. If you get picked first overall, you have to have something different from the rest of these guys. I could not be more happy he has made this happen. Not only because they need him, because it's not just about this run right now. It is about the future. Now he looks like something that is a building block piece. You get that going, and you get the confidence. I feel that is the biggest barometer of his change as a player is last year, the year before that, on the goal he scores, he cuts to the outside. He cuts to the wall, and he waits for help, or he sends it behind the net. He knows he's feeling it, and he went through 3 defenders, and he beat Bob clean. When you are playing with confidence and you have that much skill, you can make some crazy shit happen. I could not be happier for Lafreniere because they need it and he needed it.
100%. And I tweeted this, I quote-tweeted you earlier today, and I said, like, working in NBA media makes me so grateful that the big guys, the Shams, the Wojs, the Mark Spearses, they don't have to stoop to this level of just groveling at their information sources in order to keep the pathways alive. The fact that the NHL insiders, and we've said this before and I'll say it again, the fact that they do this all the time and yet they still keep getting beaten by graphic designers is insane. It is absolutely asinine. Like, anybody that has ever watched a single game of the Gerard Gallant-led Rangers could tell you that what Gallant is saying is complete nonsense. Is complete and utter fabrication. But because Friedman is doing his boy a favor by all accounts, maybe Gallant is interviewing.
He also mentioned Chuck Fletcher as a candidate for the Carolina job, which made me audibly laugh.
Yeah,
but continue.
Like because he has friendships to maintain, he says these things in order to propel their name in the media sphere. He might Friedman might disagree wholeheartedly. He might, I don't know, but he says these things because Gallant wants him to. Therefore, he will. And he will because he wants to keep that friendship and that information pathway alive. And that to me is not media. That to me is a friendship and you have a platform. So you say things. But that's not what media is. And that really just bothers me. And if Friedman has a problem with what I'm saying, then I would love to have a conversation with him about it. I'm an adult, he's an adult. We can
Hockey media is different, Andrew. Everybody knows everybody. We can have
an adult conversation about this. This is one of the biggest things that gets me really pissed off with hockey media is a lot of times they echo what somebody has told them as opposed to what they actually think and what they actually feel. Like, I get Gerard's your buddy. I get it. Watch a single game, bro. Like, Lafreniere didn't deserve any of that. And he got it because Gallant can't coach the team. I don't care that he's your friend. He can't coach.
I think this is something I was talking about the other day with somebody. I find it very weird how the Rangers never get covered. Like, I just feel like they don't get covered other than the context of trades and free agency. Well, I don't feel like people talk about the Rangers the same. And I understand hockey media is different because most of it is based in Canada.
Have ins to the organization.
No, but that's always been that way. I'm talking about like my entire life. Yeah. Like you consistently make the playoffs. You consistently win games. You win playoff series. You end up starting to drive some of the conversation. But when I listen to national media people talk about the Rangers, I feel like they're not watching the games. And I know that's the critique. The stats people get is, hey, watch the games. How is the takeaway after game one, the Rangers got bodied and they need to play Rempe? It was a 1-0 hockey game for 55 minutes.
I genuinely thought I was in an episode of The Twilight Zone. Listening and reading because it genuinely felt like there were two different games being played. The one that we watched, where it was a 1-0 game for the vast majority of the game, and then a bad play by Shesterkin, a bad bounce from Lafreniere. That's game. Whatever, things happen. The hockey, like the rest of the media, for some reason, watched a totally different version of that game, where the Rangers got dumpstered by 9-foot behemoths the entire game, and the only solution is to play 10 minutes of Matt Rempe.
Watch the games, bro.
I can't believe what I'm hearing and reading from a lot of these sources, because it genuinely feels like we're watching two different games. It boggles my mind. It really does.
We live in very weird times. We have more access to more information than any point in all of human history, and nobody actually uses any of it. Like, at all?
Yeah.
We have the entirety of human civilization I can access on here. But hey, man, we gotta argue our talking points, because that's what we do in sports media. Like this, is it physical? Is it grindy, difficult hockey? Yes, absolutely. It is physical as all hell. No disputing that. VZ got knocked out of the game. Got knocked out of game 2. He's probably not coming back. That hit by Lomberg, wholly unnecessary. Interference, first of all, and clearly just targeting. Like, there is no other point to throwing that hit than trying to hurt somebody. Absolutely insane. The hit you mentioned from Sam Bennett on Lindgren, where he's very clearly trying to knock his head off of his shoulders. Trouba trying to decapitate Evan Rodriguez. It happens. This is really physical hockey, but you eventually need to score goals. You eventually need to make saves. You need to get a clear. You need to string together 3 passes in a row. All of the circus aspect of it, that's just window dressing. That is just easier talking points for people to coalesce around and argue with. This has been a really fun series.
It has been.
These games have been really tight. There is not a lot of room out there. The Rangers have really scored off of the rush, which I didn't think they would be able to do a lot against Florida, because Florida is pretty tight defensively. But you had mentioned this on the preview episode we did last week. Florida's defense is kind of similar to Carolina's in that they're very good when they have the puck. But other than Forsling, other than Forsling, as individual defenders, they're not shut down guys, and similar to Carolina.
Kulikov got walked on that Lafreniere goal. My God, he got walked.
Yeah, and OEL too. Oh, it's not OEL is not on the Panthers for his defense. Yeah. We can all be objective and say that. It is frustrating to hear some of the prevailing sentiments from these games because it feels like we're not watching the same thing. And most importantly, and I do want people to remember this, the Rangers are up 2-1 in this series.
They are 2 games away from the Stanley Cup final.
So
with a lot of things not going their way.
We've got game number 4 tomorrow. The Rangers could play up to 4, 5, 6, 7. They could play up to 4 more games in this series. They only got to go 500 the rest of the way. You start gaming it out, and it becomes very, very palatable. Can you probably win another game playing the way you did on Saturday? Probably not, but it's not impossible. 500 hockey the rest of the way. You stole one in Florida, so you made up for the fact you lost game 1 at home. So home ice you got. It's 2-2. You get 2 at each place, depending on how long it goes. At some point, one of the big players is going to make a play. I still believe, and I said this before game 6 against Carolina, I still believe one of Zibanejad, Kreider, or Panarin is going to make something happen. And the depth playing as well as the depth is, and Shesterkin playing as well as he is, I think that will be enough. I really, really believe this team is different than the last couple iterations of the Rangers.
I agree. I mean, again, if this was any other year, they would have crumbled in that third period. They would have lost at regulation. That would have been 2-1 Florida. It would have been a vastly different vibe. It would have been a different story today. The fact that this team was down early, Lafreniere said, I don't care what's going on or who's in front of me. I'm going to go ahead and tie this game up. He did. He scored another incredible goal, walked OEL, walked Kulikov, walked the entire Panthers bench, walked Bobrovsky, and scored that goal. Goodrow turning into the best goal scorer in the history of the NHL somehow in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Somebody made this joke to me the other day, and I'll repeat it for the purpose because it's funny. Bob is getting caught off guard because he doesn't think Goodrow's going to shoot. I 100% thought the overtime winner on Friday. I thought he missed the net. In all honesty, being at the game, I thought he hit the glass, and I was like, I thought it was and then Bob sulked, and I was like, did that go in? I genuinely did not think it went in at first because I'll be honest, it's Barclay Goodrow.
Yeah.
He caught Bob sleeping.
A lot of things are not going the Rangers' way, and
they're still winning.
Any other year, it'd be like, okay, like it's been the vibe is different. The team just doesn't have it in them to push through, run it back. This year is
different.
Is the opposite. A lot of things are going against them. A lot of the top guys aren't contributing as much as we'd like them to. The defense hasn't been there, and yet they're still winning. The vibe is different. This team is built different. They're 2 wins away from getting to the pinnacle of the Cup final. All you need now is 6 wins. You're 10 of 16s of the way there. I'm not. What is that? 5 of 8. You're 5/8 of the way there. I know basic fractions. They're 5/8 of the way there. Just get 6 more wins, and you're etched in history forever. The fact that a lot of things aren't going their way and they're still finding ways to win is a real highlight to their mentality going into these playoffs. And surely these things can't continue to not go their way, right? Surely the pendulum is going to swing the other way. And all that matters now is at what time and place in the series, whether it be now or in the final, if they get there, will the pendulum swing the other way?
Enjoy the ride, man. That's what I said after they won against Carolina. It's what I'll say now. These are the kinds of games. This is the kind of series 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. Point back to and remember, hell, the 15 team didn't make it to the Cup final, and people still talk about the games from that run. They still talk about the ones from 2014. They didn't go all the way. Hell, there are people who talk about the 2012 team that didn't even get to pass to a game 6 against the Devils team that wasn't good. These are the kinds of moments you remember. Barclay Goodrow going nuclear, Lafreniere going nuclear, Shesterkin looking like a brick wall. Take it all in, soak it all in. appreciate the moment because these don't come around that often. You make a conference finals once every 5-10 year-ish. It's not that common. And the Rangers have had a really good last 10 years in regards to that. You know, they've made the conference final 5 times since Kreider's been on the team. That's the greatest hit rate of any like 10-year window in the history of the team. And the Rangers have been playing hockey for a while. So the fact that we are living in what's undoubtedly one of, if not the best periods in the history of the franchise, yes, we want to win a Stanley Cup. I would like to win a Stanley Cup.
I just want one, man. I just want one.
Keeping it in that perspective of how hard it is to get here, you get a little bit more of an appreciation. And frankly, and this is the last thing I wanted to hit on, it's a lot of fun when the energy is the way it is. All the Ranger fans in Florida yesterday, God, this is what it's about. This is what it's about. 8,000 obnoxious New Yorkers getting on planes to go down to Florida Memorial Day weekend purely with the intention of being as loud and obnoxious as possible to win a hockey game. That's what it's about this time of year. Yeah. It is about making things happen whatever way you can. Before the first overtime started on Friday, I stood up, I turned around, and I was telling everybody, loud as you can possibly be. I need you as loud as you possibly can be. Loud as we could possibly be. They won the damn game. They're going to keep finding ways. I really do believe.
So do I.
All right. That'll do it for today's edition of the Liberty Blue Podcast. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts or over on YouTube. Make sure you are subscribed over on YouTube. Andrew and I will talk to you soon.
Later.